This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Well, Sunday number 5 in the books. Tony Dungy's there. You see Rodney Harrison and Mike Florio joining us as well for our conversation. Mike, I'll start with you with the Dak Prescott injury. As you were making calls after that on Sunday night, what were you hearing?
Well, it's not good news. It's a compound fracture, and the bone broke through the skin, which, as it did for Alex Smith a couple of years ago, enhances the possibility of infection. So the goal tonight, clean the wound, repair the fracture, and then begin a long road for recovery for Dak Prescott. And there's not a whole lot of time before some decisions are going to have to be made contractually about Dak as a member of the Cowboys in 2021.
Yeah, we'll get to the business part of it in a minute. Tony and Rodney, I want to ask you about, you have a team, you've got a plan, you've got a star, and you lose that star. It sends shockwaves through the league, the city. But what happens in a building when something like this happens?
You know, you're really down, Mike, because especially with good guys like Dak Prescott and like Alex Smith that Mike mentioned, you hate to see that as a teammate, but then you have to rally around each other and say, you know what, the best thing we can do is get this going and win some games for Dak. And I think that's what the Cowboys will do.
Absolutely, Coach. And I was on a team with Tom Brady when he hurt his knee and was lost for the season. And we were devastated. We felt really bad for Tom, but then we looked at each other and we said, you know what? Tom's hurt. He's going to get better, but we have a job to do. We have to continue to play well and make sure that we rally behind Matt Castle, who was the backup quarterback at that time.
Yeah, there's an emotional aspect to this, too. I mean, we were up here on the set doing the early part of Football Night in America when it happened, or right before it happened, before we went on the air. And we were all kind of jarred emotionally. I think part of it is, look, everybody's met Dak, likes him. He's so warm, gregarious. He's taken on the leadership of that team in so many ways. On the field, he was off to his best start. Off the field, he spoke out about mental health. He really has captured everyone's attention. And you see something like that happen, and it just kind of hits you, the cold reality of the league at times.
And there's something about that visual type of injury, too. The ACLs you don't see. You don't really know what's going on in there. You saw that right away and knew that that's a bad injury.
Mike Florio, can I just ask you about the business part of this that we alluded to? You always want to make this line 2 or 3. It's almost not human to talk about it first, but this is a business. It is the reality of it. Dak's contract has been the conversation of the summer the last few years, especially in Dallas. So where does an injury like this leave that down the line?
Well, $31.4 million will be fully paid out to him this year. That's part of the protection of being a franchise tag player. The question then becomes, what will the Cowboys do next year? 3 options. 1, finally work out a long-term deal with Dak Prescott at a time when the player, because of this injury, has a lot less leverage than he's ever had, and that's the cold reality of NFL business. 2, franchise tag again, 20% raise, $37.68 million in a year where the salary cap may only be $175 million because of the pandemic. Option 3, he becomes a free agent, hits the open market. Maybe the Cowboys sign him after he becomes a free agent and he sees what else is out there. But this changes the dynamic dramatically, and it underscores something that we always say on PFT Live, and I've been writing about it for years at ProFootballTalk.com. Players need to get paid what they can when they can, because you never know when something like this is going to happen. They're the ones taking the physical risk. They're the ones putting their bodies on the line. So it would be nice if fans were a little more understanding when someone says, I want my financial security because of the risk I take when I cross that thick white line.
Rodney, as a player, what's the player's perspective of the guys in your locker room, or when you have to do it, you're playing on your last year of a contract, and you know that an injury could really impact what happens the next 3-4 years of the prime earning years of your career?
Well, did you see the way those guys reacted to Dak Prescott? They have a lot of respect for Dak Prescott. They love that guy because when it comes to, we're talking about contracts and money, Dak doesn't play football for the money, because if he did, he would have took the $100 million guaranteed. Dak is upset because he can't be out there on the football field with his teammates. But I just feel bad for Dak. And, Mike, you talked about the dynamic of contracts and things like that. He's going to bounce back. There's going to be 5 or 6 teams that really want Dak Prescott. He's going to come back stronger. And if Jerry Jones don't sign him, trust me, there'll be about 5 or 6 teams that would love to sign Dak Prescott. He's a special young man.
And, Mike, I think this really underscores why so many of the players don't want to play on their franchise tag. I know fans say, oh, how could you, $30 million or $25 million, what's wrong with that? Well, we see this right now where you could have been set long-term, not really worried about the financial part of it, and now it's uncertain.
Well, guys, right after halftime of our Sunday night game, after we got off the set, we found out that Atlanta's going to make a change at the head coach and the GM position. Dan Quinn let go as the head coach after the 0-5 start, and same true with Thomas Dimitroff, the general manager. Mike Florio, this was kind of bubbling down there in Atlanta after saving their jobs last year with a great finish to the 2019 season. This start was just something that eventually Arthur Blank, the owner, had to react to.
I remember vividly when the Falcons were 1-7 at the bye last year, it looked like Quinn was out. Arthur Blank didn't do it. They went 6-2 down the stretch. It saved Quinn. It saved Dimitroff. I'm a little stunned Dimitroff is out too, but he's been there since 2008. He's been through multiple head coaches, and at some point, you can't say it's just the coaching. At some point, it's the talent as well. And I think also with the Texans looking for a GM and a head coach right now, I think Arthur Blank didn't want to wait because now there are two teams that are going to be in the market with franchise quarterbacks. One's a lot older than the other, but you've got two openings now at GM and head coach, and I think what happened last week may have influenced what happened this week.
Rodney, that's your neck of the woods, so you've got a better beat on this Atlanta deal than any of us. What's your reaction?
Well, I kind of react off the fans that text me and call me and all my people that are down here. They wanted those two guys gone. And, you know, they specifically say Matt Ryan making $28 million a year. Then you come back and you sign Julio Jones to an extension of $22 million a year. So you spending $50 million on two guys that are older now and past their prime. And that's a big problem with the Atlanta Falcons.
It's tough. I hate to see any coach lose their job, and to think back that Dan Quinn was that close to a Super Bowl ring.
First thing I thought of.
Yeah, it really does hurt. But it just shows you have to strike when the iron's hot. When you get an opportunity, you've got to take advantage of it because you don't know what the future is going to bring.
28-3, that third quarter lead. Rodney, you and I were sitting there together watching the game, that Super Bowl.
The one that Rodney left?
I wasn't going to bring that up, Tony. Tony, there was
You always got to say something, Coach.
No reason to go there, but hey, Tony, good job. And, you know, you think about all of that, and Dan Quinn, I remember being down there when they started the next season. They did everything they could to try to heal that wound, to try to put it back together. It's just that cold reality. Maybe we're seeing a little bit of it with San Francisco. If you get there and you don't win, it's really hard to come back the next year.
It is so tough. There's so much emotion, so much energy to go and to face that disappointment. It's tough to bounce back, and the Falcons have not done a good job of it.
All right, let me get to Sunday games and the results of games. Rodney, I will start with you. The Vegas Raiders go into Kansas City, and Derek Carr has the better game than Patrick Mahomes, and the Raiders get a win at Arrowhead to knock the Chiefs in the ranks of the unbeaten. What was your takeaway from that game?
Well, Derek Carr is always talking about respect. The only way you get respect is you have to beat really good teams. And they didn't do it against the Patriots or the Bills. And, you know, today against Kansas City, they were outstanding. And the mindset, aggressiveness down the field, throwing the ball down the field. A lot of times Kansas City came up and they stacked the box, 8-9 guys to stop the run, and Derek Carr took advantage of it. And it's nice to have Nelson Aguilar making plays. It's good to have Ruggs Jr., Ruggs the second, back making plays and healthy. So I thought it was a terrific job by Derek Carr, just taking on the challenge and stepping up.
Big win for them, Tony.
It was a big win, but I'll tell you the team I was impressed with, the Cleveland Browns. Are they what we think they're going to be? And they won a couple of games, but now they're playing the number one defense in football. And Baker Mayfield was under control in this game. They ran it well. They hit the big passes, and their defense stepped up. So to see the Browns at 4-1, I think they're for real.
I'm going to ask you guys in a second. Hold your thoughts if you believe in the 4-1 Browns or not. But let me jump ahead to the next one. And Mike Florio, Miami and San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo and the defending Super Bowl champs lose. Garoppolo struggles coming off the ankle injury. He's benched at halftime. C.J. Beathard comes in, can't rally them at all. Should San Francisco start thinking a little bit of concern right now?
Well, I think that the problem is, and we've seen this with multiple players over the years, guys come back from injury too quickly. They come back when they're not ready. They come back when they can't move the way they need to move. And so Jimmy Garoppolo, to a certain extent, was set up to fail. Who signed off on him playing in this game when he clearly was still having issues with that ankle? And we see him get pulled out of the game, in part because he wasn't playing well, but in part because they wanted to protect him from further injury. So now you have to ask yourself, how long do you shut him down for? Who do you go with? Nick Mullins last week disqualified himself from further consideration, so it's C.J. Beathard until he's healthy, right? Didn't he? Wait a minute. You're supposed to throw to the guys on your team. I like guys who throw to the guys on my team, not guys on the other team. So anyway, look, they're just all of a sudden, it's all falling apart now, and the quarterback position is right at the heart of it.
Rodney?
Rodney, what? What do you want me to say?
What do you think about the Niners?
They got 3 bad quarterbacks. What you want me to say? Their defense is injured. One of the best defensive players in all the league, and Bosa, he's gone. What do you want me to say, Mike? This is an average team, and you look at their schedule. They got to play a bunch of people: the Patriots, the Rams, and Seattle. Man, they're in trouble.
It's gonna be a hard time.
Hey, Rodney, they have 7 weeks of hell coming up.
Yes.
Their schedule is. It scares me just to look at it. And they're going to have to go into it starting next week with big uncertainty at quarterback.
And I think the last 2 years we would have said, well, you know what? They can play great defense, suffocate people, run the ball, and kind of protect the quarterback. But they can't win like that now. They don't have that dominant defense on board now with the injuries. And people are going to say, we're going to take away the run and see if the quarterback can beat us.
You know, sometimes people accuse Mike Florio of overstating things. He's right. Listen to these. listen to these 7 weeks.
Wait, he's right.
Yes, he
I
is.
want to mention the schedule.
I'm trying to help the counselor here. The Rams at New England, at Seattle, Green Bay, at New Orleans, at the Rams, Buffalo after that.
Wow.
There is a bye week in there.
They're not making the playoffs.
Schedule as of now. They're going to have a really, really, really tough time. Tony got us started on the speed round here. We'll get his final answer in a second, but Rodney, you go first. Do you believe in the 4-1 Cleveland Browns?
Do I believe after 5 weeks? No.
Okay.
I think they played well today, like Coach talked about their defense. But I mean, it's 5 weeks, Mike. I'm not going to jump on anybody's bandwagon after 5 weeks.
Florio?
I believe in them with a caveat. They're in a bad division to be a contender. You got the Steelers, who are unbeaten. You got the Ravens, who have beaten the Browns and are otherwise a one-loss team. And that's the one thing I don't like about the NFL's current structure. You can be very lucky and be the best team in a horrible division, or you can be the third best team in a great division. That feels like what the Browns are. I think they can make it to the playoffs, and I do believe they're moving in the right direction. But they're going to have some battles coming up starting next week with the Steelers.
That extra wild card help. What was that thing you tweeted out about the Browns today?
Through 2015, from 2015 through 2017, their record was 4-44. This year, their record is 4-1.
Tweet of the day.
So all of a sudden, they qualify for the playoffs, Mike, Florio?
No, I'm not. No, there have been plenty of
weeks?
teams 4-1 that don't make it, but I believe in them.
I mean,
I'd believe a lot more in them if they were in the NFC East, frankly.
I feel like Susan Page from USA Today. Nobody answers my question here. Tony, are you a believer in the 4-1 Browns?
I believe in them. I said it last week. I said Justin Dungy said, look out for the Browns when they were 3-1. This win against Indianapolis really showed me something. Myles Garrett is a force on defense. Baker Mayfield is
what are
playing.
you talking about?
Baker Mayfield is playing under control. They can run the football. And I think they're going to make the playoffs. I believe that.
Hey, Coach. You and Mike Florio, I'm recording this, all right? You're talking about Cleveland's going to make the playoffs after 5 weeks. After 5 weeks, and you were one of the most critical people on the Browns last year. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to make the playoffs.
I was very critical of them last year because I didn't think they were playing together. I thought they were trying to do too much to get their wide receivers the ball and throw the ball all over the field. I see a good running game. I see guys playing together. I see them knocking people down on defense. I think it's a different team.
Yeah. So after 40 days, you're a believer. Okay.
I believe in 4-1.
Hey, all we need now is for a fly to land on Rodney's head.
Very, 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 very good. Yeah, Rodney, I was going to say, you got your VC hour.
So what are you calling me, a piece of something?
No, Rodney. It's all vice presidential debate humor, which is probably not worthy of being funny. How did 10 wide receivers get drafted? Let's move ahead. How did 10 wide receivers get drafted before Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame?
You know, Chase Claypool is he's one of those guys you're looking for. And Chris Sims talked about it, another DK Metcalf. Big, strong, looks like a tight end, can play out wide, can run after the catch. I'm not sure. This is a talented young man.
Yeah, Rodney, you like what you see at Claypool?
I do. He's big, he's physical, and he plays with a lot of energy, and he's going to give Ben Roethlisberger that big target like he did today.
Mike, the Steelers always seem to find the right fits in the draft, especially in that wide receiver position.
Unbelievable. Usually in the later rounds,
yeah,
but it's worked out well for them the last few years in the second round, from Juju Smith-Schuster to Chase Claypool. And you know what? I'm not trying to run off Chris Sims, but somebody may want to hire that guy to be a general manager. I mean, 2018, he was all over Lamar Jackson. Last year, he was all over DK Metcalf. This year's Chase Claypool. And there aren't many you can point to that say Sims got wrong. So maybe he's going to be the next guy to be hired from TV straight into a front office.
There you go. You're trying to run him off.
Well, I secretly am.
Chris working the Notre Dame games. We travel back to Connecticut and talk about it all the time. I'd say, is Chase Claypool as good as I think he is? And Chris felt right away watching him down on the field that he was, and he's showing that. Quick answer here. Rodney, you first. Do you believe in the 3-2 Carolina Panthers?
Not as a playoff team, but what Matt Rule is doing down there has been tremendous. The work that he's doing with Teddy Bridgewater in the run game without Christian McCaffrey.
Tony?
I do believe in them. I think Teddy Bridgewater has played great for them. And playoffs, we've got an extra team in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So 9 wins is probably going to get you there. They've got 3. Can they get 6 more during the course of the year? I think in the NFC they can.
Mike?
Buccaneers 3-2, Panthers 3-2, Saints as of right now 2-2. They're in the thick of things. They haven't been in any way embarrassed this year. They've been in every game they've played, and they are just methodically getting it done. And as I said last week, this is horrible news for the Jets because it proves you can rebuild and still be competitive. They're extremely competitive. They're only going to get better when they get Christian McCaffrey back.
You mentioned the Jets and the Giants, the teams with New York in their name. Both 0-5, never been like that. The team that plays in the state of New York, Buffalo, is not 0-5. We just make that distinction for our friends in Western New York who always want to be precise on that. Lastly, Rodney, I'll start with you. A sentence on seeing Alex Smith back on the football field, a couple of years nearly, and 17 surgeries after his leg injury.
Mike, I've been a guy that had about 3 or 4 knee surgeries, and I understand to a certain degree what he's gone through. And it just really blessed my heart to see him back on the football field because I know how hard he worked, how much he sacrificed, and what his wife and his kids had gone through seeing him get injured. So I was just very grateful that, he was able to make it back on the football field.
Florio?
Start writing the script for the movie. I mean, isn't it inevitable? There's going to be big screen treatment of Alex Smith in this story. I think it's the best comeback story of an individual in NFL history, what he overcame. He was almost dead from the infection that developed after that horrible broken leg, and here he is playing again, and there's no end in sight for him.
No, it's really just heartwarming is the only way you can describe it. When you saw some of the pictures of him in the rehab, you think he's surely never going to play again. And to take snaps out there and be part of it, it was just great to see.
And to see his wife and kids on this rainy day in the stadium and rooting for Alex Smith, somebody who they're the ones, especially his wife, who really saw everything he'd been through. I think it's a reminder for all of us and your fantasy teams, and you're calling the talk show to fire your GM, or this guy stinks, or that guy isn't good enough, of the people who are behind the jerseys and the play in the National Football League. It was a reminder of how special it is. And as I said on football night, comeback player of the year voting over, done. Alex Smith better win the award unanimously. Rodney.
Tirico, I need to ask you a question. Do you believe in the Cleveland Browns, and do you believe in the Carolina Panthers?
As your moderator for this debate, I only have 2 minutes to get to the next question. I believe in the Browns as maybe a 6 or a 7 seed. Let's see them against the other good teams. Carolina, not as much right now, but getting McCaffrey back will be big. Saints going to have a tough time. No Michael Thomas on Monday night, so as Florio said, they might be in the middle of this division.
Hey, Mike, Tirico, my last point. It's so nice and refreshing to talk to somebody that actually knows football. Thank you, Mike Tirico.
Well, that's why we have Coach Dungy here, so you can talk with him every week. Thank you, guys. This was one of those weird weeks in the National Football League. It felt bad, but you also smile and have some fun with the league as well. Thanks for hanging with us. And Rodney will break down the debates for you in the next couple of weeks in this segment, so I hope you join us for that. Good night. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.